Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us today. I am really excited to talk with you about your goals in an MBA program just as we approach round 2 applications. So the goals essay is among the most critical essays in your application. It is the focal point through which everything is really being evaluated. So the goals essay helped the admission team determine their ability to help you get to your goals. It also helps support transferable skills you present in your resume and other essays so that the admission team feels confident that you have been doing a bit of legwork before starting an MBA program. So then again, they can help you get to those long-term plans. So putting together really strong goals, outline goals essay, what your short-term and obviously what your long-term goals are is really not a very easy task to do. And today I want to talk about 3 types of goals essays and how to approach them. Now, before I go into those details, I would just like to take a few minutes to discuss a bit of logistics. So I will be presenting for about 20 minutes or so. As I present, if you have any questions or whether those questions are about a topic that I just finished presenting on, or you have a specific question about your specific application, please write your question in the chat feature. And to make sure that I can answer those questions at the end of the presentation, please make sure that you write a full question before you hit that submit button. Like I said, after the presentation, there will be a Q&A session where I will try to answer as many questions as possible. However, if I don't get to answer all of your questions, or if you end up watching this video after our live stream, I request that you reach out to us to schedule a consultation. Our website is going to be posted on the chat feature, as well as it will be in the description of this video. With the logistics out of the way, let me just introduce myself and make sure that this presentation actually works. So I'm Susan Berishaj. I am the founder of SIA Admissions Consulting, which is a New York City boutique consulting firm. I have been a consultant for about 6 years, helping young, ambitious professionals like yourself gain admission to M7 and top 20 MBA programs. These are applicants who have really great experiences, but struggle to convey their stories in a meaningful way in their applications. One of my strengths as a coach is paying close attention to the narratives that shape the applicants applying to help them present a strong candidacy for these target institution in a language, of course, that they want to hear. The approach results in client presenting a genuine application, highlighting their unique experiences that they bring to the table. I have a 90% placement rate, which means 9 out of 10 of my clients receive admission to at least one of their top choice MBA programs. So with that out of the way, let's go right into the presentation and the topic for today, which is, of course, the reason you are all here. So I want for you to think about your goals essays as a window into the target MBA program. Typically, the way the questions are phrased should give you insight into what the school is really looking to know about you, what the school is looking for in your responses. So for the purposes of this presentation, I've categorized these different types of essay goals questions that may come up. And the most notorious is the most common rather, it is the direct goals essay question. These are questions that ask a version of what are your short-term and long-term goals. The other types, or the next type of goals question can be phrased as a leadership-focused goals essay. This is, of course, unique to Haas and to Berkeley Haas, and really they're looking to develop leaders, and their entire curriculum is about leadership development, and we'll talk more about that once we get to the Berkeley Haas specific essay question. And the next one is also unique to Yale SOM, and that is positioning goals essay. So to quote Yale's website, or what to talk about how they describe themselves in their mission and what they're looking for, Yale SOM seeks students who care deeply about the problems afflicting our world today. That everything that you do is in context to something greater than yourself, greater than a job that you're looking to have. So this essay is a type of essay, is asking you to stand for something you care about, and they're asking it in a specific way. So my goal today is to provide you with some insight into how to write a strong goals essay, regardless of how the question is actually phrased. So I will be focusing on presenting specifically for Wharton, Berkeley, Haas, and Yale SOM, respectively, or in that order. So let's dive right into the Wharton essay question, which again is the most common question that you will see in at most schools. And the question is, how do you plan to use the Wharton MBA program to help you achieve your future professional goals? You might consider your past experiences, short and long-term goals, and resources available at Wharton. The question is honestly the most straightforward it can be. The clues are included the clues of what you need to write in the essay are included in the statement that's written there. So you might consider your past experiences, short and long-term goals, and resources available at Wharton. Wharton and other schools that are asking this type of question are looking for you to connect your past experiences to your future. So schools that are asking this type of questions are not really looking for you to completely reinvent yourself. So for example, if you want to be an entrepreneur but have no entrepreneurial tendencies and no entrepreneurial past experiences, a school like this may not be really a response that says my goals are to be an entrepreneur may not be the right approach to your goals essay here. So what do you need to include in an essay like this? And what I'm going to do is to help you break down the question so that you can tackle one thing at a time. Sometimes it's helpful that you break down a question and answer each part separately and then bring it all together. Or some people just like to, fully write the essay with all the content. It really depends on, what works best for you. But I like to break things down so I know all the parts that I need to respond to. So for Wharton's essay, I think 3 parts are really important here. And the first is, I really like starting with a story that captures the experiences that closely exemplify what you look to do in the future in this specific scenario. So how do you know that you want to be a CEO? How do you know you want to be a consultant? How do you know you want to be a CEO? The example here needs to be something that can tie to that future goal that you're looking to have. But it doesn't mean that you have to be already a CEO. It doesn't mean you have to be already, in operations or whatever your goal may be. If you, so for example, if you want to be an entrepreneur, you have to share a story that demonstrates the skills that you have as an entrepreneur, the experiences that you bring that have demonstrated to you that this is the path that you want to proceed in. If you want to work in operations, you have to share a story that ties together how you see yourself, how this has helped you decide that this is the future that you want to be. These are the experiences that you've had in the past that you really like to have a career in. So it's not that I imagine, I want to be a particular role. You have to have some experiences that you can share with the admission team. And the idea here is that you really want the example to mimic the work that you will be doing in your future job. So you don't have to, like I said, don't have to actually do this job at the current moment, but it should mimic in some way, or it should connect some way to your future goals. The next part is to specifically state the skills that you require, the skills that you need to develop to help you get to your short-term and long-term goal. Obviously, you don't want to say that you already have the skills, because then why do you need an MBA? So you need to dive deeper into what do you need to develop to become that future, CEO, consultant, or whatever it is that you're looking to do. If you want to work as a product manager, for example, you have to identify the skills that you do not have currently that you need to become a successful product manager in that future role. And obviously, it should be something that the school can help you get there. And the third part is it requires for you to respond to identify specifics as to what the school offers to help you get to your future goal. This is where you do a lot of research, where you have conversations with current students, you have conversations with alumni to really understand what makes the school unique. An important note to remember here is that everything that you include in how Wharton is going to help you get to those goals should be related to your goals. So for example, you shouldn't say that you want to be a part of the wine club unless your goals are to work at a winery. That's the idea here. Everything that you include, whether it's your classes, whether it's experiential learning, whether it is, community building, all of these elements need to be related to your goals. So they need to be professional. And another thing that I want to just point out, that everything you include needs to follow with a why and how. So why does that particular opportunity that Wharton offers matter, and how does it help you get to your goals? Don't just state that you want to enroll in a particular class, which is often what I see in the writing. You want to dive deeper into stating why that class matters specifically for your goals, and how does it help you get to the skill, get you to develop the skills that you need to get to that future role. There is a particular reason that you select specific things that you mention in your writing, so you have to dive deeper into your responses. And I think this is the most important, or one of the most, as I mentioned, common essay questions about goals. Obviously, schools are asked this question in different ways, and also give you more or less wording to respond to this question. So just make sure that you take parts of this to answer the goals essay, whether that's 150 words, 250 words, 500 words, or like Booth, which has no maximum word limitation. So take the time to really dive deeper into your the motivation that drives you to pursue those specific goals. So the story, the goals and what you need to develop, the skills that you need to develop, and then how the school is going to help you get there. So hopefully that was helpful. The next the next school is going to be Berkeley Haas, who has this leadership-focused goals essay. And the question is, the definition of successful leadership has evolved over the last decades and will continue to change. What do you need to develop to become a successful leader? So thinking about this, I can't stop I can't sort of move away from thinking about Berkeley Haas's culture. So they have these 4 defining principles that defines who, what Berkeley Haas stands for, and that's questioning the status quo, confidence without attitude, student always, and beyond yourself. Now, if you look at each of those defining principles in silos or even together, the thread that ties everything together is really leadership. So these are leaders who are not afraid to speak their minds. These are leaders who do not let their ego get in the way of making the right decision. Leaders who are not afraid to learn. And these are leaders who put the collective before themselves. So when you think about these defining principles, obviously it comes to no surprise that Berkeley Haas would ask a question about leadership. So how do you write this a response to this particular question? And I like to break this into 4 parts. So first and foremost, you need to essentially define what a successful leader looks like for you. It's really important that this is your truth. It is a leadership style, a leadership characteristic. What does a leader look like from your perspective, from your lens? So to answer this question and to think about, how do you answer this question, you really want to spend some time brainstorming ideas. And the easiest way to find what a leader looks like is to look to your network, look to the leaders that you admire, people that you want to emulate in your future career. So who do you want to be like? And then obviously identify the characteristics that make them enticing to you, and which gets to the second part, which is, of course, an example. So I am a firm believer that each essay should have a narrative, a story that makes the reader really understand what you're getting at, where are you going. Otherwise, you may risk being too macro level, too philosophical, and it doesn't give an opportunity for Berkeley Haas to see how you experience the type of leader that you speak about. So in the example, you just want to identify, you provide some evidence that demonstrate how did you come up with this characteristic of this leader. This example should be related really to your goals. So you do have to bring your goals to the forefront of this response. Once you have clearly articulated what a leader looks like and you have identified an example, then you have to answer the question, what do you need to develop to become a successful leader? And obviously, you're going to tie together the example and your goals and frame it from the lens of leadership. So you still want to show what your goals are, but focus within those goals, focus on what kind of leader do you want to be in that particular field or that particular role. And then, of course, the skills that you need to develop to develop still to be that leader that you imagine yourself to be in the future. And lastly, so the fourth part is for you to identify the specific elements that Berkeley Haas can offer to help you develop into the leader that you want to be. Now, when you think of these 4 parts, I don't want you to come away with thinking, how can I answer all of these, or how can I break this into all these different parts if I only have 300 words to respond to this? Remember that each of these elements doesn't require its own paragraph. It can be a sentence or 2 for the leadership. It can be a few sentences for the example that you include, a few sentences for your goals, and then another few sentences for Berkeley Haas as to what it offers you. But you do need to touch on all of these different pieces in order for you to fully answer this question. And what I don't like seeing is sometimes I read, I evaluate people's applications who haven't been admitted to programs, and I see this scenario where they've answered part of the question but not the full question. So in order for you to really answer the question, it does need to include all of these elements into your response. Perfect. So now let's go into the positioning goals essay, which is Yale's essay. So I'm sure all of you have written in some shape or form a research paper in college, whether that's a short one or perhaps a lengthier one, or some of you have done a thesis, or whatever it may be. You have had an experience writing a research paper. And part of what you were asked to do in your research paper is to decide what your stance is. So whether you accept or you question or you reject the statement of your source, the statements that your source claims or your sources claim. In effect, by doing that, you are positioning yourself in relation to a conversation that's happening with other authors in that particular paper, in that particular field. So akin to that source in your research paper, Yale wants you to identify the source of your career interests and ask you to identify how you want to engage in that space. So let me just simplify that a little bit. So if you are an engineer and want to work in consulting, perhaps you what you would want to do is you want to identify an experience where you may have worked in the past with a consulting firm to help solve a problem at your organization. That is an example that answers the question. The first part of the question is, how did you arrive at these career interests? Then you need to identify what kind of role you want to take in the consulting space. You have to really see that there's a problem that you're trying to solve. Yale cares about the world. They care about the impact that you're going to have in the world. So you need to show them that the goal, the role that you want to have, the goal that you aspire to, is in some way participating in a larger conversation that is, in essence, helping the world in some way. So how do you respond to this question? How do we break this question down? So again, four parts to answering this question. The first part is, really answering the first part of the question, which is how do you arrive at these career interests? And how do you do that is by really telling a story, giving context as to how did you get to the to this career decision. Then you have to really spend some time defining your goals. What are you looking to make and to do, and what essentially what problem are you looking to solve? Obviously, that's going to perhaps start a little bit with that long-term vision of where you want to impact long-term. And then you provide, of course, that short-term plan as well. And all of these are helping you position yourself for that long-term target that you're trying to answer. And then, although it's not explicitly stated in here or not specifically stated in the question, you do need to say how Yale is going to help you get the skills you need in order for you to achieve those goals. That is really answering, or it's kind of hidden in the part in the second question that asks, how will you position yourself to pursue them in the future? So there are skills that you need to develop, and Yale does need to be part of those skills development phase to help you get to that short-term and perhaps even long-term plan. So with this type of essay, you will have essentially 250 words to respond to, to include all of these parts in there. And I would say, and this is something that I tell my clients all the time, is initially don't worry about the word count. First and foremost, make sure that you have really fleshed out all of the pieces of the response. So your story, identify that. What are your goals? What are you looking to impact? How are you looking to impact the world? And how is Yale SOM going to help you get there? Then you look at being more economical with words, making sure that you are more concise in your language, and bring down the word count to the 250 that Yale requires you to respond in. So hopefully that gives you an idea of how to address these types of goals essays. I'm happy to dive deeper into any one of these particular types of essays, or if you have another essay question for another school, doesn't need to be for these schools specifically, please feel free to write your questions in the chat, and I can try and answer them as best I can. If you would like to have a conversation, obviously there is the link to our website in the chat room, and here's my email address and obviously website that you can check out and connect with us there. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and go to a few questions, see what questions have come in. All right, it looks like there's no questions. So is anyone applying to these schools? Maybe you can start with just, letting me know if you are targeting these schools in round 2 or next year. So Michael has a question about Yale's biggest commitment essay. Michael, please type your question away. Angie, the question about Notre Dame asking you to create a slide about yourself. I am not familiar with the school itself, but it sounds a little bit like the Pick Six from NYU. So I would say think about who you are as a person, who you are as a friend, who you are as a professional, how you engage in your community, and what are some of the things that you can include in that slide. Perhaps you include some pictures in there. Perhaps you include some travel. I don't know exactly, your particular story, but make it a little bit. Make it a little bit fun for yourself. Showing your personality. Typically, that's what really they're looking for. So think about the different silos that you belong to, and what is an element that you can share that's interesting and that's fun for the school to see about yourself. So Michael is asking the question, how the tips and tricks to answer the question Yale SOM offers, which is your biggest commitment you have made. So typically you want to answer this question. It should be something that has, in a way, defined you, an experience that has defined you. At least that's how I like to approach it, and talk about. So first you want to, of course, give the example. First and foremost. So, what is the biggest commitment that you've made, right? And then you're going to ask. Then you're going to rather talk about some of the challenges that you've experienced in that role, or to get to the result that you are looking to make. So, what are the challenges that you faced? And then you want to obviously kind of bring it to a close in some way, saying why was that a big commitment for you, and what are the lessons learned in that experience. So hopefully, if you break it down into those 3 different parts, that will help you at least have the idea. And then, of course, part of writing a story, part of storytelling, is making sure that the experience is presented in the most effective way. So whether you start with the conclusion or you start from the beginning, it really depends on the example and the experience, the kind of how you want to present the whole narrative together. But do focus on giving an example that it's something meaningful to you, that something that has shaped you in some way. Typically, think about Yale, right? As I mentioned earlier, they care about the world. So your biggest commitment should be something bigger than yourself, right? And how that shaped you would be another, added layer that you would include in that response, although it's not specifically asked in the question. Okay. So HEC's essay prompt, leadership and ethics are intertwined in the business world. Describe a situation in which you dealt with these issues. So the question is it a leadership or ethics question? So if we look at the question, leadership and ethics are intertwined in the business world, they're asking you for both. So it's a leadership and ethics question. And most of the time, if you focus on the ethics component of the question, the leadership is the response to the ethics. So if you have a problem, if you're dealing with a situation or an experience where there was an ethical question of the decision that you're making, obviously this has to be a business example. The leadership is how you deal with that. So if that helps you, simplify the response, I think that would, you can bring both of those together in your response, but focus on finding something in your past experience that was an ethical dilemma, if you will. Perfect. So Michael is asking if it's better to tell a past commitment that's finished several years ago, or an ongoing commitment that is still a work in progress. Which one is better? That's really the answer. Which one is the better example? Which one is the example that resonates with who you are? At the end of the day, that's what matters most. Obviously, you want to provide some results, because if you provide a commitment that is ongoing and you have no results to speak of, it may not be the best example, because you still have to provide, like the situation the action that you took and the result. You kind of have to structure it that way. So you do want to spend, you do want to have a result. So if the commitment that you are currently involved in does not have any results, that might not be the best option. Great. If anyone else has any questions, please write the question in the chat, in the comment section. If you want to reach out to me directly and want to have a conversation about any of these schools, please do so using the link in the, well, it's showing up on the screen right now, like magic. Wonderful, Michael. Good luck with the round 2 applications. Definitely take time with both those to respond to both of those questions meaningfully, and always go back when you're writing your essays and ask yourself, did I answer the why? Why does it matter to you? Why did your why did the commitment that you made matter to you? So do spend a bit of time articulating that and be reflective. And good luck. Awesome. All right. Is anyone applying to any other schools? So another question about what makes you feel alive when you're doing it and why. That's Berkeley Haas's question that they ask you. So here you may want to spend a bit of time thinking about you may want to spend a bit of time thinking about an experience where you feel you are your genuine self, where you feel that you are like there's not enough hours in a day that you would be that would make you tired of working or doing the thing that matters, that makes you feel alive. Sorry, I'm mixing the Stanford one. So first identify the experience itself that makes you feel alive. So whether that is, it could be something that's, professional. It could be something that's personal. It really doesn't, there's no right or wrong answer there. It matters that you articulate it in a way that demonstrates the passion that you have for the thing that you mention. When I guide my clients to answer this question, I typically ask them what typically it's kind of related to that, to the question of essentially what would you be doing where you would do it for free, essentially. And then you want to spend a little bit of time articulating why it makes you why do you feel that way, and why does it matter to you? So I would say probably those three parts of the question should be the response. Given that the second question that we already covered today is a goals essay, this doesn't really need to be related to your career, which is oftentimes what I'm asked about this specific question. This really needs to be about you, what you care about. So it could be about a project, it could be about a community project, community work that you're doing. I mean, you have to also think about those four defining principles that I mentioned in my presentation, and how does what you talk about relate to some of the things that Berkeley Haas stands for, and go into a little bit more details. I mean, it's hard for me to exactly tell you how to approach the response specifically, other than that macro level, a few pointers, without having the example to guide you a little bit more on the response. Perfect. So I see some HBS and GSB and Kelly and Emory and HEC Paris. Some applicants here, which is wonderful. The Michael, the GSB and the Berkeley Haas essay that I just talked about, they sound similar, but they may not necessarily be similar or the same example that you include for both of them. So Stanford, GSB, Stanford Business School's MBA question is, what matters most to you and why? And Berkeley Haas's question is, what makes you feel alive and why? And sometimes you can respond with the same example, but you do need to change the approach in how you present each one of them. With the GSB, I like to think of it, what injustice do you see in the world that you want to solve, that really, really sort of makes you mad? And obviously it can't be something that you just get mad about and don't do anything about it. It should be something that you can relate to in your past experiences. But if you try to sort of narrow it down, it really is, what makes you mad, and what steps essentially have you done to try and find a solution to the thing that you end up mentioning. Great. Any other questions? Any last questions before we end this session? Like I said, you can always feel free to reach out in the using the link. I know this is a very busy period in the sense of, applications are in full swing for round 2. But if you are going through this process and want to have a conversation afterwards, definitely encourage you to reach out and have a conversation with us. So I have another question that says, has some personal matters that wasn't able to study for the GMAT, but wants to apply to top business schools. What feedback can you give me? I have applied to business schools waiving the GMAT. Are you able to apply? So let's just talk about the waiver component first and foremost. Obviously, if you had these, experiences that you reference, it is going to be okay for you to request the waiver. And obviously it's a different request than someone says, well, I don't want to take the GMAT and therefore I'm asking for a waiver. It's definitely a different request from that. But just do apply to schools with a waiver cautiously. You want to make sure that you demonstrate that you have the skills, you have what it takes to be successful in that program. So I'm thinking, Ross, Darden, MIT Sloan, NYU are some of the few schools that have waived the GMAT or offer a waiver for GMAT. But I would say you have to really talk about your quantitative aptitude. So it depends on what your job looks like, what you've been doing. If you can't really speak to the experiences that you've had and how that have prepared you in a quantitative lens, if you don't have a STEM background or experiences that are very quant heavy, it may become challenging for the school to admit you because they're not sure if you're going to be able to succeed in the program. And obviously they don't want people who start the program and it's so challenging that they end up dropping out. Obviously no one wants that. Neither you don't want that and they don't want that either. So make sure in your application, if you're trying to apply again in round 2, make sure that you are including that you're emphasizing the elements in your experiences that demonstrate your quantitative aptitude. Also have your recommenders talk about your quantitative abilities as well as backup or as people supporting you and making the same statements that you are in your applications. So that would be my recommendation. As if you still want to apply this year, I would, hopefully by next year things get better and you would be able to take the GMAT and have a more, have a perhaps stronger chance of being admitted to a wider number of schools if this year doesn't pan out. But it's a little bit tough to gain admission because the schools haven't waived the GMAT or GRE for everyone. So you are still being compared to the applicants that are applying, right? And if those applicants have strong GMATs and equal or perhaps even better quantitative experiences than you do in your application, then the school may say, well, this person, we can see clearly, they have taken the test that is standardized for everyone. We can see that they will be able to succeed in the program, where they may not necessarily have the same details on your case because of what I just mentioned earlier. So hopefully that helps. Great. So if no more questions, like I said, please feel free to reach out. We can have a conversation one-on-one and talk about your profile, talk about the schools that you are looking to apply to in round 2. My website is listed on the screen and in the chat as well. So please feel free to reach out and look forward to connecting with you, and good luck to everyone, whether you're watching this live or watching it later. Good luck in your applications to round 2, and we'll talk again soon. Have a great one, everyone. Thank you again.